This is We Burlesque.
Hi, I'm Bunny Wigglebottom.
Hi, this is Ben Franklin.
Hi, this is Joshua Dean.
This is Bella Fire with We Burlesque, Season 9.
Get right into it. This is We Burlesque the podcast, and I'm your host, Viktor Devonne, and through the miracle of fiber optics, I get to talk to nightlife individuals in the field of burlesque, drag, and cabaret, and today is no exception. I have on the line Frida Lokah. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you doing
Hi.
today?
Glad to have you. As a relatively local individual, you're somewhere in Los Angeles, right?
Yep. Yeah, born and raised in LA, so I tend to stick to SoCal spots for the most part.
Where else have you traveled to?
I have
That that
performed
that
I've performed in New Mexico before, back in 2019, so that was a lot of fun. I was on tour with another burlesque troupe, and we were doing a Game of Thrones burlesque. That was really fun. But for the most part, I've been stuck in SoCal for the most part, especially with the pandemic. So I ended up just kind of sticking to my home turf.
Yeah. When did you start performing?
2017, I want to say. So
Okay.
it's been a minute.
But that's a sizable chunk before the world fell apart. So,
Yeah,
as I often refer to it as the before times, you had a pretty decent run before everything fell apart, and then everyone had to reconstruct.
I did. I did. I was on another troupe. It was sort of where I got my start, and started in 2017, but obviously had sort of phases of being involved in burlesque and cabaret in different capacities. I remember I kittened for a show when I first turned 21, and kind of like that was sort of it. I just kittened. I don't even remember the show. It was some random show. And then I remember there were a bunch of like random kind of shows going on in random bars that were all looking to kind of do Pussycat Dolls type stuff.
Sure.
And so I would be auditioning and I would sort of get, get the no or get the, oh, you're not really what we're looking for. You're not our type, and after a while I just kind of got fed up and stuck to teaching for a while, and then a couple of friends of mine who were my coworkers at a fellow dance studio decided to bring me to one of their burlesque shows, and ever since then I was hooked.
Yeah. You're classically trained or
Yes.
professionally
Yeah.
motivated to dance?
Yes, I did start. So, I mean, I started like everybody else, who is a dancer, who is a quote unquote dancer first, the
Mm.
whole ballet, tap, and jazz. But what's funny is that ballet, tap, and jazz were not my starting point into the world of dance. It was actually
Mm.
ballet folklorico.
You're gonna have to break that down for me. I'm sorry. I'm very, very white.
No, that's all right. So, ballet folklorico is basically it's Latin and Hispanic folk dance. So,
Oh,
basically zapateado, everything from flamenco, anything that is Latin folk dance would be
okay.
encompassed under ballet folklorico or under danza, which would be, all of the more indigenous style dance and rituals that you would see.
Wow. What is your heritage? What is the makeup?
So from my mother's side, they are Guatemalan, and from my dad's side, they are from Mexico. So my dad is from Sinaloa, and he's actually the dancer. So he taught me everything I know to get started.
Yeah. What are some of the components of the folk dancing? Is it largely group? Is it storytelling?
Largely group. There is a great element of storytelling, and especially if you go more to the danza side, a lot of that is focused in on the different gods and goddesses. But when it comes to ballet folklorico, it's based on the regions in Mexico specifically. If you're looking at ballet folklorico in Mexico, then you would go ahead and look at the regions. So when you're looking at stuff from like Veracruz, it's a lot of that really beautiful skirt work, very light and airy, and that's where like the one of the most famous dances called La Bruja, where they balance a candle on their head.
Okay.
That one comes from Veracruz, and then Jalisco is like the one everybody knows, where you see the colorful ribbons on the dress, and very high energy, high skirt work. And then you go into somewhere like Oaxaca, and the skirt work is less about the movement of the skirt and more about like the footwork, and it's more about like the storytelling. So it just depends on where you are and what style based on the region that you're doing, and if there is a story attached, then what is the story you're portraying.
Mm. So I live in Riverside, which has a very substantial Day of the Dead celebration. It's usually
Yes.
on the Saturday closest to Day of
Mhm.
the Dead, if not on the proper date. And it's been so I try to go every year for the last how long have I been here? Since about 2019. So with the exception of the pandemic times. And what I've always really enjoyed is the pageantry, obviously, and the celebration is huge. People go
Yes.
all out, and you can tell that people work very hard on their attire. In addition to like the memorial side of things, where you go through the park and you see everyone's altars, but also just the I don't know, it's the reverence and yet fun, if that makes sense. Like there's also an element of fun to it, which one might not necessarily associate with, mourning or death or
It's
acknowledgement of
true.
those who have passed.
It's true.
And one of my favorite parts that is that they very frequently have I don't know the proper term for it, but it is they are usually dressed as cowboys, but they also are devils, and they will do like this group lasso uh dance, and it's so elaborate and so specific, and the music, it's not that it doesn't have um changes in the style, but since it's very I don't know how they know during the song when to move to the next thing, because it's not quite as it doesn't have the highs and lows necessarily of like a verse chorus situation. And I think it was very, 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 very cool.
Oh, it's all
Um
counting. It's all counting. And when you're doing it's especially in most styles, whatever you're doing on the right side, you're going to do on the left again. So it's always repetitive, and it's the number of
mm,
times you're doing a certain move. That's how you know. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the well, not unfortunately, but I would say that's the hardest part about dancing ballet folklorico for me is I have ADHD and I'm a terrible counter, but I count when I have to. And so that's sort of the thing, is making sure, did I do four on this side or did I do three on this side? And then making sure that you do the exact same thing on the other. And then there's usually a flourish move at the end to kind of like the exclamation point or the period at the end of the sentence.
is it like partner dancing where you're facing the other person, or does everyone face away towards an audience?
Well,
Or
sometimes
I
it
mean,
just
that's how
it
it depends.
totally depends. So like there are like a lot of the dances you can create them into partner dances, or they can be done as solos for the most part. When it comes to the choreography, there's like the traditional element of the choreography. Usually the paso, aka the footwork, will remain the same regardless, but everything on top can kind of be open to interpretation so long
Mm,
as the skirt work follows the rules of the region, if that makes sense.
sure. A lot of times, what I usually do, and I talk about this when I teach character as well, and my sort of rule of three is that a lot of burlesque performers, as their core, will use either a background in dance, modeling, or acting, and use that as like the thrust of where their performances come from. There are obviously combinations. There are actor dancers, there are singer, there, and then also some people are singers. But I often find that the singers usually still fit one of those categories.
Yes.
And I had somebody say at one point, well, what about a costume designer? I'm like, well, again, it would depend, because if you're creating a costume and you're performing, you're doing it to the music, which is choreography. You're doing it for the character, which is acting, or you're presenting it, which is modeling. So I feel that that's still the case. As someone who has a background in dance, do you think that your strength in burlesque is that background, or do you fight against it?
No, it's definitely my strength. I'm a dancer first and foremost. Although I was raised in a way where, probably because of my neurospicy, my parents didn't know what to do with me. I was someone who never sat still, so my mom put me in anything and everything she could just so that I could go to sleep when I got home, and it
Exhaust
was.
you.
Yeah, she was like, get this girl tired because she will stay up and run me rampant. And also, it was my grandfather's wish to not. They wanted to go and take me to like actually get tested, and my grandfather was like, "Well, I'm fine with you getting her tested, but like over my dead body, if you put her on medication, please put her in a ballet class or something." So it was my
Mm.
dad was like, "Why not folklorico? Let's go," and it started from there, but it kind of spiraled and. You couldn't get me to stop. So my mom then put me in acting, singing. She put me in dance obviously as sort of that to round out that triple threat. And then as I got older, she had me do beauty pageants. She had me anything and everything I could. I did show choir in high school, so you name it, I was doing it.
Show choir like going to competitions?
Oh yeah.
I've
Oh,
heard it's cutthroat.
in the SoCal scene, yes, it is very much
I've
so.
heard. Yeah.
Especially the more advanced you get, you look at schools like John Burroughs, and they definitely like they're very cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while you'll see like a TV show or a movie where they focus on some sort of competitive uh, uh circuit for either kids or young adults. And I've heard that very often that it's all true.
Yeah,
It's
that
all
that
it's either sometimes ultra promiscuous, sometimes very regimented, sometimes very lax, depending on parental supervision. And yet kind of I mean not just not soul crushing, but like fulfilling in a way of like pride of getting
yes.
through it and the success of it. But
I
that's demanding.
definitely, yeah, I definitely didn't think my mom thought that this was going to be my career. She definitely wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that was her two options she gave me. And unfortunately, just she really, really wanted to dance when she was younger. I know that it was something she always wanted to do, but unfortunately, with my family situation, my grandmother immigrated here and had to leave her behind. So
Mm.
there was no money for to put her into dance class, especially not in Guatemala. And coming here, she didn't take her first dance class until she was in college,
Mm.
and I think that was her way of sort of living vicariously through me, but I don't think she thought that it would go this far, but she's definitely proud of me and she fully supports everything I do now. She's
Oh.
my number one fan, along with my dad. Ironically enough, he just can't come to the shows.
He can't, or he's not allowed to. Or he
Well,
doesn't feel he can because he personally wouldn't want to.
he has been to basically he's gone to all the burlesque and chill shows because he knows that I don't strip at that venue,
Mm,
or
mm.
not at that venue, but with that troupe. But he has for sure said if there's ones where you are going to be removing your top. He's like, can you either let me know when that's going to happen? Otherwise, I won't be there. But he usually won't go to anything where I'm soloing, but he has gone and supported my online shows during the pandemic. And he just, pays the ticket and, lets my mom watch it. And he'll watch up until a certain point. And once he sees the first layer come off, he excuses himself to go grab some popcorn.
That's fair. That's more than reasonable. Uh, as someone who then found themselves doing shows during the pandemic, and online, was that fulfilling to a certain degree?
It was definitely the first time that I didn't feel like I was being policed on what to do or had to fit
Mm.
the exact theme. I could do what I wanted. And it was the first time I ever got to even have a taste of producing. I got to produce one online show during the pandemic and it was my own and it was, great. It was a lot of fun. It taught me a lot. It also taught me to, definitely wait before ever thinking about producing a live show because that's a whole nother beast. And I learned so much from that experience and from learning to go ahead and just be my own director, my own photographer, everything because we had no one during the pandemic.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this a little bit before we got started, that we as burlesquers have like those 20 little jobs that become the fully formed person. And then adding in the potential of video editing, adding in tech support, being our own kitten, being our own set dresser, being our own pet wrangler, if that came up,
Especially with my
making sure
cats.
making sure that all of the pieces fit. The Wi-Fi was still working, things like that. When you were doing those shows, were they pre-recorded or were you going live?
I was for the most part, it depended on the show.
Mm,
There were some shows I was able to do perform live. There were others where majority of the time I would have them recorded just because I felt like I would have more control over the environment.
mhm.
Um, I think specifically the shows that I very much would do recorded were anything where I was doing either like wax or where I was balancing because I tend to do the candle balance a lot or my bottle balance. Like those I would go ahead and pre-record them just because I would feel a little bit better not having to rely on so many outside things that could go wrong. But anytime I was hosting or anytime I was doing a fairly standard act, it was for the most part always live. It was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, definitely anything that involved fire or any sort of flame. I was like, yeah, let's pre-record this.
Did you do those indoors?
I did do them indoors, and I had my partner standing by with a bucket of water and a little mini fire extinguisher just in case. Which is exactly the reason why there were times where I couldn't do things live because if he wasn't home for whatever reason, I needed to have a safety somehow.
Yeah, yeah. Do you do fire in person still?
I do. Mostly it's with a lot of the times it's from my candle balances or from wax. I did just do my first show where I did use actual fire staffs, and that was really fun. And lately, I've been retraining. I used to baton twirl, so I've been retraining how to twirl fire. So that's been a lot of fun, but I'm definitely not ready to bring that to the stage quite yet. It's a work in progress. Hopefully next year.
That's fair. Yeah, fire is hard to get the right venue for because a lot of venues will just flat out just say they don't want to deal with it or what have
Mhm.
you. And coming from uh my time in New York, unless you were at Coney Island, it was a foregone conclusion that you probably weren't going to get to do fire.
Yeah, and
Too many
it's
curtains.
it's a lot of curtains and then plus a lot of low ceilings. Anything with a low ceiling,
Yeah.
I tend to be very, but for the most part, majority of my fire acts tend to involve candles. So for the most part, I'm not too scared about candles, but I know some venues still are kind of like, no, please don't, and that's fair.
Are we talking about the like the long prayer candles or votives or what kind of candles?
Both. I actually have for my wax acts. At first, I was using just regular like BDSM candles, and I found that I really didn't like how they would melt down. So I started
Hmm.
thanks to Pio no actually I saw him use the votive candles, and then other BDSM performers also were using the votive candles. Of course, they would either make their own or they would get them specifically done with soy wax, non-paraffin wax, of course. But usually I've been using the votive candles a lot more lately just because they retain the heat. It actually
You
melts
say of
down.
course, but I don't know why of course.
I think of course. I think the reason I say of course is because just in my brain it seems like a no-brainer, but I realize that probably for others it's not.
I don't know
Um,
the mechanics of it. So you're please, and also this is a safety lesson for
safety
folks who
lesson.
don't know. Tell people why they shouldn't use paraffin wax.
Well, paraffin wax is way too hot. That's what
Okay.
causes the skin burns. So soy wax
Um,
it burns at a much lower level. Paraffin wax can be very dangerous unless your skin is equipped to handle that and you have skin made of steel. Then by all means, if that's your vibe.
How do you know? I mean, I guess candles they're labeled, right? They would say what they're made of, right?
They should, but some aren't. So that's why you really have
Yeah.
to know what candle you're using. So for me, I'm terrible at making the candles. I'll be honest. Like if you look at the construction of my candle, they're not great, but I just need them to melt. So that's all I use them for is basically I like the fact that the votive candles retain the heat. I can pre-prep them and pre-light them without worrying about there being a completely open flame. But for the most part, I just think that I'm able to get more out of the candle and more wax to be able to show on my skin. Um, but yeah, that's kind of why I stopped using the other regular BDSM candles unless they're like in an actual vessel of some sort. So putting the candle in a vessel has been my thing. But for when I balance, I use tea light candles because I'll have usually a. I've learned this since in my years to use like a shatterproof shot glass with water
Mm.
in it. So you have to have water in the glass because in case the glass does tip over, the water will extinguish the flame. And I'll still have a safety also present nearby regardless.
Yeah, because I guess you wouldn't like pull out a Yankee Candle
No.
and do it. I don't know. I mean, I guess you have soy beeswax, but I
Mhm.
don't know. Like, I guess I don't never really thought about it, to be perfectly honest. I'm not for someone who drips candle wax on oneself. Um, I guess as a child, I would play with like the peeling aspect, like the way one would like glue.
Yeah, you would peel it off
Um,
and play
but
with
I
it.
think I did like it did hurt at one point, and I said, okay, let's not do that again because it probably was too hot, and it probably made like a mark on me that lasted for like 2 days, and I was like, well, we won't be doing that again.
That's for sure paraffin wax for sure. But that's kind of why I've started using soy. I just I find it a lot easier. And I just find it a lot more just manageable just because I again there's so many variables on stage and you never really know what's going to happen. That's sort of the beauty and the double-edged sword of live performances is things can go
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, and I guess like that's very pay attention, folks, to what you put on your skin, both on stage and for sex wax, candle wax play. You got to pay attention to what you're doing. But yeah, I'm so vanilla, evidently. I never.
You don't strike me as that vanilla though.
Well, I don't like. You know what it is I do. My idea of the worst case scenario for death is painful. So I'm not afraid of death, but I'm afraid of painful death, or I'm afraid of torture, or like an extended like period of pain that I am not into. So
That's that's very
not
fair.
that that's as is it doesn't like prevent me from doing a whole lot. It doesn't like freeze me, but I'm not into discomfort really.
Fair. I'm definitely what's funny is when it comes to like my sex life, I do like a little bit of pain, but for the most part,
Sure.
but for the most part, when it comes to death, I want it to be as painless as possible and as short
Yeah.
as humanly possible. So I share the same fear.
Yeah, like I remember this is such a strange tangent, but I remember having a conversation about death with my mom. And I'm someone whose birth mother died when I was very young. And so death has always sort of been like around. There's always been an awareness that people could go. And so uh we were just having some sort of conversation about it, and I was like, oh, I wouldn't. I think we were watching ER or something. This is back in like '98. And I was like, oh, I would want to be asleep or like instant. She's like, you don't want to know what that moment is like? I'm like, no, I'm good.
No,
But I've learned
absolutely
something
not.
about you from that statement. Interesting.
Absolutely not. No, I'm like, please let me. I used to say, do you remember Titanic? And
Yes.
one, that movie ruined like. And don't get me wrong, I love the water, I love swimming, but like I can't think of drowning without like
Yeah.
going to a full like hyperventilative, like I'm panicking type of state. But I loved the fact that Rose got to die in her sleep, and I always said, when I get older, I just want to die in my sleep. I want to die in my bed having the best dream in the world, even better if it's a sex dream.
I
But
love that that was your takeaway from Titanic.
I was like, let
She
me die
gets
of
to
sleep.
all these people drowning, drowning and dying slowly of hypothermia. Like she gets to die in her sleep. That's so nice.
That's so nice considering she suffered so bad. She already
I
met her
know.
death
Yeah, I know.
more than once. So I'm
Yeah. No, I
I'm
think every generation has water ruined for them with with a film at some point or another. I know for some people it's Jaws.
or
So
Or Poseidon for others. I know everyone that's
yes.
I know for my brother, he's a few years younger than me, and Poseidon ruined that for him. And we still went on a cruise like growing up. So I'm like, I don't even know how we did that.
I guess what I don't even know what would today be. Uh we've had a bunch of shark renaissance movies. We've had like the Meg and the
Oh yeah,
those
that's
how
right.
many fathoms under, how many feet under. Yeah, we've had a few of those.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, water's
so many
scary.
feet under. Yeah, water is
Yeah,
very scary because we haven't even
water's scary.
discovered. I feel like we have what's the percentage of the ocean that we haven't discovered yet? Isn't it like
It's
something
high up
crazy?
there.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's
I
high
want
up
to say it's
there.
more than 50%, but yeah, we don't know what's down there. So
Yeah, I don't know if we're meant to know. I keep I don't know if I guess as I get older, and I feel this way about the colonial aspect of undigging past cultures as well. I don't know if that's for us. Like I don't know why we decided that we're allowed to. I don't know why we need to know that. I don't
no,
I
to a
don't
certain
know
extent,
what
you're not wrong there.
again and the problem is because again with the whole museum concept of like the English and the Americans taking things from other cultures and then putting them on display and them not belonging to those countries. Yes, bullshit, gross. Um, but the thing is that I don't know why we feel entitled to know that. Like, I don't know why we feel entitled to even space to a certain degree. And like, I just sort of feel like, why is that our business? Like, I feel like we have so many other things that we could be doing.
True.
And I understand human curiosity, like I get it, but I think sometimes human curiosity is used as an excuse just to not deal with the present at
Well,
times.
what's actually happening, and I think there's this sort of difference of wanting knowledge versus wanting to actually obtain an object. So like for me,
Hoarding.
yeah,
Yeah.
hoarding it. So it's totally fine to dig. For me, I'm like, okay, if you're gonna dig up the option because you want to, the option, the artifact because you want to learn about it, great. Learn about it, then give it back to those people. Why put it in a
Or
like
fund
why?
the people to do it themselves. I
Yeah,
mean,
or
that would also be cool. Like,
yeah, because I know a lot of ancient I know a lot of like especially like civilizations. Obviously you're talking about like the Maya, the Inca, the Aztec, and
yeah,
all the other many indigenous tribes in Mexico that are still around but don't have access to those parts of their history because it's been stolen or it's been dug up by others in power, and then they hoard those artifacts instead of either a like, hey, why don't you look at this, why don't you interpret this, and then teach us, so that way, because I'm a big history buff, and I'm under I follow the idea that if you don't learn your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
sure.
So I'm all for everybody learning, but stealing is where I sort of draw that line. And so that's sort of like where I think it's good to go ahead and continue to find knowledge, whether it's space or the ocean or anything. But yeah, there's a limit, and there's a certain thing that is not our
Yeah.
business
I don't, oh, yeah.
until it
It's just
is.
like if it's going to take that much effort, maybe it
Really.
shouldn't be. Well, it also, yes, we are doomed to repeat history, but we keep repeating the same 100 years. So I feel like let's focus on that before we go back that much further. Like,
What was it that Courtney Kardashian said to her sister
oh,
when she dropped that earring or whatever? It was the
oh,
kid
yeah.
people are dying.
People are dying. Yeah. Yeah.
People
There,
are dying, Kim.
I always, I mean, I wasn't a Kardashian watcher, but I guess the
Neither was I.
equivalent of that would be America's Next Top Model. It's like some people have war in their countries, as I recall that being said. It's like I just want you to
Yes.
realize, like, some people have war in their country,
We
and
could
you
we
were
could
late
we
for
could
a
edit
go
that word.
see. It's okay. Hey, this is Victor Devonne. I know it's difficult to strategize how to spend money and where that money should be going, and I thank the folks who have found some way to support financially this podcast. Massive love to the people on patreon.com/weburlesque. Thank you very much to Courtney Jones, Dottie Rebel, Charlotte Strudel, Paris Stilton, Luna DeLay, Goosey Gander, Roxy Reverie, Faye Havoc, Tiffany Lane, Madam E, iRed, Shimmy LaRue, Curly Bright, Oliver Swisky, Sebastian Crane, Alex Collode, Bo Bridges, and Stormageddon. Love you very, 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 very much. If you would like to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/weburlesque, and I promise you those dollar bills go to servers, to advertising, to actual real costs, including WordPress, GoDaddy, and people who need my money. So thank you very, very much for help supporting the podcast, and thank you for amplifying the voices of those upon it. Love you very much. In terms of your transition into burlesque, did that come before or after your relationship with the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
That came Well, it's all mixed in.
Yeah.
So I found Rocky Horror the same way I found burlesque, which was by total accident. And actually
Hmm.
around the same time. I found Rocky Horror because of my uncle. He is a huge collector of antiques. He loves really weird, cool things, and he collects radios and everything under the sun. He's just this really unique dude. Shout out to my Uncle Phil. Because he'll probably listen to this. He loves finding my stuff. But he we found this movie at his house. And it happened to be the Rocky Horror Picture Show. My brother found it, my younger brother. He was, I believe, I want to say maybe 4, maybe 5 years old at the time. So definitely not the age to be watching it, but him and my god brother, who is my Uncle Phil's son, they were big movie heads and loved to steal his movies and go watch them without his knowledge. So they
Mm.
stole the movie and brought it to our house and we watched it. I was completely weirded out until I saw Columbia and I fell in
How
love.
how old were you?
If they were 4, I was 7 at the time.
Okay.
And I think that might have been one of my first queer crushes because she was so sparkly and so cute. And I didn't know if I wanted to be her or be with her at 7 years old, but I didn't have
This
that
is
switch.
that is the real queer awakening, isn't it? That is it. Yeah.
It's probably one of my first queer awakenings. Besides Bring It On and those two siblings. I mean, I couldn't get enough of those two siblings. But when it
I
came
can
to
see I can see a relationship and okay, there's things in common.
yeah, there's a lot of like really weird things in common with there. But I discovered Rocky Horror through him and through watching that, and then 2 years later, my mother was with me at a baton twirling competition in Vegas, and we were staying at the Tropicana. This was back when they still had that, like, I don't. It wasn't what show was at the Tropicana? I don't remember what it was, but there was a showgirl show at the
Oh,
Tropicana
um,
in the early 2000s. I want to say this would have been 2020. This would have been 2004 or 5, maybe even 3. It's a while back, and I don't remember
yeah.
the exact show, but there was a show there, and she was told it was a dinner show,
Okay.
and she decided to bring me along with her. And what's funny is even the people at the door were like, "Oh, is she
Oh,
your guest?"
was it the Folie Bergère?
Yes, it was.
There you go. See, Wikipedia, you come through again.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
that
that.
was damn, December 24th, 1959 to March 28th, 2009. That's a
Yeah,
good run. Talk
really
about the
though,
la
and I
talk
was
about the
so
last showgirl. Goodness.
Very much so, and I was so blessed to see it because as a young kid I was so enthralled, like just
Mm.
the lights, the costuming, the dancing. Like these were dancers, and not only, but obviously the opening number is they remove their top and they look to the audience without actually revealing anything, and then there's it'll say like 5 minutes till curtain, and then they run off stage scurrying, covering their tits, and like they just run off. So was anything really super graphic? No, but it was definitely my mom kept consistently looking at me like, remember, they're not naked. Remember, they're not naked. Like just stressing to me that they were not naked. And so yeah, seeing Rocky Horror and seeing beautiful showgirls before age 10 probably
Yeah,
probably did something to my psyche and probably said, "You know what? You're going to be a showgirl now." And
yeah.
so it sort of was all mixed in there. But when I actually got started doing burlesque, I had yet to even be on a shadowcast. It was sort of a teenage dream that never got fulfilled, and I sort of let it go up until I decided to take a break in 2021. And I took a hard break from performing, and I said I wasn't sure. And like sort of old acquaintance of mine needed a Trixie one day and was like, "Great, the show's tomorrow though." In true Rocky fashion, like we need somebody, just a
You
body.
got a couple hours notice. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I got a 12-hour notice or 12 or 24-hour notice, and I said, "Well, luckily I have some of my burlesque costumes still unpacked. Let's see what I can put together." And glued a couple extra rhinestones to a jacket and made a hat and made it work.
Did you do usherette or were you just fancy?
I did usherette. I did
Usher
sort
it.
of sort of like an usherette style. I did what I could in 24 hours, but I did an
Sure.
usherette style, and then built upon that and continued doing the shadowcast life even through doing burlesque. My burlesque career kind of took off, and I stayed doing shadowcasting because I loved it.
Yeah. So have you are this is forgive me for being indelicate, but are you still in your 20s?
No, I am actually 31. I'm turning 32
31.
next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just turned 42 myself.
Hey,
So I'm recording this the day after my birthday, actually.
hey, happy
Uh
belated birthday. My partner just
thank
celebrated
you.
theirs too.
Yesterday?
No, on Wednesday.
On
But just
Wednesday. See? This Virgo energy.
and what's funny is I'm Virgo Venus, so I'm loving the energy right now.
See. Um yeah, so from to go from age 7 and then have this time between of finally that culmination. Like if this was a movie, there would have been flashbacks of
Very
like you
much.
watching and the stars in your eyes, and then you would have.
Well, and it's funny because my mom actually has a picture of me from when I was 3 years old. And for Halloween, you'll never guess what I was.
What were you?
I was a showgirl.
Oh,
I was a showgirl, even though obviously it was a very tame showgirl for a
sure.
3 year old. It looked more like a flapper, but
Uh-huh.
according to what my mother wrote next to the album, it says showgirl.
Listen, I am all about that happenstance because I have a photo. So I said that my mother passed when I was very young. Before she passed, she would make the costumes for the kids for Halloween,
Oh,
and I must have been 2 because that's the only time it really could have happened. Uh, I was a clown.
I was a clown too.
But I was like, well, that's prescient. So, and I was like a frilly, kind of hero, kind of circus. It was a mix. And I keep saying to myself that I really have to get that recreated. I have to
Yes,
get
you do.
someone to make that in my present size.
I think you could do it. And I think that would be such a beautiful, like, especially because your mother made that costume. That'd be such a
Yeah,
beautiful dedication to her.
yeah,
I was a clown
yeah.
when I was born because they just couldn't find another costume that fit me. I was so tiny. So they were just like polka dots and we'll just put a little red lipstick on her. Cool, she's a
Spoon,
clown.
just a little bit. So I have a question for you. As someone who I don't nerd out about the Rocky Horror Picture Show as much as I used to. It used to be all encompassing because I came across the film when it aired on Fox. This would have been 90 should do the math. 95 maybe. It was for one of the anniversaries and they had like a shadow cast back and forth in front of it. And you can find it because it was actually like it was a big deal. It was a big deal that they aired it because it was the first time it was on TV, and they did have to make some edits to it. But for the most part, it was because it was Fox, which then, of course, is kind of ironic because it was Fox where they did the remake. But
And edited it a whole lot more.
a whole lot more.
We
That
won't talk
should have.
about that Fox remake.
We can if you really want to. I have a lot to say, actually.
So do I.
But the thing is that I didn't get it. I didn't understand what I was watching because I only knew Tim Curry from Clue, which I adored. It is still my favorite film. And so I knew he was in it. I could see that by then I had also already seen him in Legend and Home Alone 2, so I knew he was an actor and I understood that part. And I was also what 12 or so at the time this happened. So I had some understanding. But I didn't really get the plot of it and such as it is. And
There's a
and
plot.
sometimes oh yes. I will
I just love that. That's usually the reaction I get from anyways. There's a plot.
I know. No, I will talk about the literary nuance of the Rocky Horror Picture Show ad on end. Don't you worry. I will intellectualize the fuck out of
Oh,
that silliness.
I love breaking it down, especially with the changes from the original stage
Oh,
musical into
sure.
the movie. And oh god, there's just so much to talk about when it comes to Rocky.
Well, because it has lore, and that's
Hmm.
the really cool thing also is that I still find it fabulous because I follow a lot of Instagrams, and I still follow like the Sal Piero documentary Facebook and things like that. And there's still photos from the set that have never been seen before. This tiny little $1 million movie from 1975 still has unsurfaced documentation that we still are finding. It's so wild to me.
It is.
Um, and it has, because it was a failure and then it was a success and then it has all of these uh then no one people and who became legendary, who also had other things, and then you have shock treatment. Like I love it. I love it all. And it has a great score, obviously. But I do have a question for you when it comes to specifically breaking down Colombia, since Colombia was, we'll say, uh, a route for you.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
how do you see Columbia? Because she is a complicated, fascinating character beyond the glitz. She's actually really sad in that
She's
film.
she's a very tragic character to me.
Yeah.
To me, she has the most tragic storyline of all. To me,
Mm.
she is the classic sidelined performer. Like she is quite literally the person that, never gets the spotlight, is completely sidelined, even though she has so much to give. It's probably where half of my personality comes from. Honestly, I give and I give and I give, and I feel like I get pushed to the side a lot. But for the most part, I will still be just as happily and sparkly and bubbly every time. So I have a lot of like real kinship that I feel towards her. Um, Especially even in her love life, like she has this overall arc where, she then, you come to find out, at the end that really she's really in love with Frank as much as she is in love with Eddie. The real love stems from that hurt of being rejected by Frank. And yeah, I think for a lot of performers who tend to feel sidelined a lot, they find a lot of real kinship with her, despite her being a fan favorite, because she is a fan favorite. I don't think I go to any Rocky anything without seeing at least 30% of the audience dressed up as some sort of Columbia, whether it's her pajamas, whether it's her, opening outfit. There's always a version of Columbia that someone is dressing up as. And she's, aside from Frank, she's a crowd favorite.
Yeah. I mean, that's also the fun of it is that everyone has a really visceral connection with whatever character from that film that they connect with. It's like whether they play them on stage or not, but usually they play them on stage. Usually that's either a shadowcast thing or it's a cosplay thing or it's just, well, they're my personal favorite. Like that's, and then we all sort of just look at Frank as this heightened being, even if
Yeah.
that is also our who we connect with.
Yes.
And because I think one of the things about Frank is even if you identify with Frank, it's still a he's unattainable. In my an estimation, and everything I'm saying here is just
He's
my
he's
perspective on it.
he's a kind of ethereal being to me.
I don't think he can be attainable. That's the thing, is that you have to have a really fucked up sense of um grandeur to be Frank. I don't think Frank is, in fact, well, he's not human, so he doesn't have to deal with our form of sanity or our form of ethics or our form of cultural norms, obviously. That's kind of part of the problem.
Mhm.
Is that he's kind of, by human standards, an awful human being, but
Yeah.
he's not a human being.
And that's sort of the
And
point. And that's where you
that,
find empathy.
yeah, but so I don't think he is attainable unless I mean I don't even think if you were a psychopath you could attain it because he still has he almost becomes too human, and that's the problem. I feel that Rick Fra again I told you I can intellectualize the fuck out of this movie.
Oh, same.
So and his relationship with Columbia is so cruel and the and it's subtle. It's a subtle cruelty. Yes, he hacks up a former lover of hers in front of her. Yeah. But the whole like another slice, the whole dismissing of her, make it okay, you go run the Purple Onion
Hmm.
spotlight for my moment.
Hmm.
Like like it's so parasitic. And it's so not just parasitic. There's a phrase for it. I forget. It's like those birds that groom the alligators. I can't remember what
Oh,
that's
I
called.
know which ones you're talking about, but I
Is
can't
that
think of their names.
is that symbiotic? Is that no?
It's not symbiotic.
What
It's
do you call birds who groom?
leeching. It's like I know what word you're talking about, but I can't think of it at this moment.
Oh God, what is that called? And people at home don't yell it out at me. I can't hear you.
Neither can I.
Uh, pair bond, family bond, flock bond, and grooming, preening, preening.
Is that what it would be called? Preening?
That's the actual.
I just call it leeching.
That's fine too. Oh, interesting. A lot of animal that what they refer to as social grooming, and unfortunately, the right wing has sort of fucked up that word. It often is a precoital activity. It's kind of like foreplay.
Yeah. Well, especially when you're trying to form a relationship, I can definitely see that. It's sort of a that manipulation of, of the relationship dynamic.
Yeah, yeah. And so I find, and because of course Colombia, I don't.
They call her a groupie, but she's not a groupie. Like,
But she wants so hard to be a Transylvanian, and
yeah,
she never will be
hmm
because
as much
they,
as she tries, as much as she embraces, as much as she grows, whether in her sexuality and in her awakening, it doesn't fucking matter. And that's the sad part about it, is it never matters in the end.
yeah. Do you think if she hadn't screamed that Riff and Magenta would have taken her with them? I don't think so.
I definitely don't think so. I
Yeah,
definitely don't think so because of her loyalty to Frank.
yeah.
I think
And sh
if she would have, here's what I think would have happened. I think
mm,
if she wouldn't have screamed, I think if she would have somehow left the spotlight and then gone with them, then maybe she needed to make a
mm.
choice. And I think the problem with Columbia is that she didn't make a choice. She couldn't.
I
The
don't, I
choices
don't.
were made
Again,
for
I,
her.
I think, I think she's too human as well. I don't
Mhm.
know if she could. I don't think she would survive in
No.
transsexual because uh Riff and Magenta are also elevated beings to a
Mhm.
certain degree, where ethics are not. I mean, they kill Frank, obviously. They serve Eddie up. They have this debauchery that's um
I think
beyond Caligula. Like it's sort of
I definitely think she could have escaped though. How?
okay.
I've still been pondering that for so many years, but I've wondered like, okay, well what if she would have like slowly Irish exited out of the theater? Could she have been in superheroes?
Could she have gotten a verse? Absolutely. I think that's reasonable to think about. I think, and I love superheroes, but I think there is room to consider that if you're going to have everyone reflect on what they've been through, give something to Dr. Scott
Mm-hmm. That's
because
true.
he's been through it too. But and I know what I'll because Brad and Janet are us. They are who we are supposed to represent for the show and therefore the film. But and because Columbia dies, therefore the final tragic figure in that, in my estimation, is Brad. Because he's the one who's sad. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He's learned things he can't go back. And
Yeah.
Janet seems way more cool about it.
Well, because I think for Janet and I think for women in general, we learn to hold two truths at once. And we're okay with that for the most part. I think men, for the most part, this is just in my
Sure.
experience, a lot of men have a harder time with that. They have a harder time especially straight men, dealing
Sure.
with the, oh, am I attracted? Like it's sort of like I love this dude on IG who he talks about, being bisexual and, he's very hot. Like he's attractive as fuck and he loves going on, I don't know if it's chat roulette or something, but he'll start the chat and then it's always the straight dudes that are, holy shit, I'm not gay, bro, but you're fucking hot.
But
Yeah,
but if
and he's like, hey, no, you don't need to be gay to give somebody a compliment, and it's true. But I
yeah,
think Brad is having that moment where he's just like, am I gay? Am I gay?
yeah.
Is this gay? And it's kind of like, who cares if it is?
Or is it just Frank?
Yeah, or is it just Frank? And that is also okay. You
Yeah.
can be straight and you can say, but I'd fuck Frank.
Yeah. I find that because inevitably the sort of bi erasure that we still experience in our culture, that all women will eventually pick a man and all men will eventually pick a man. It's sort of fascinating that
Yeah.
that's usually how we balance it out, is that women will be lesbians for attention and men are just hiding who they are till they eventually, I guess, settle as dick pigs. But it's, I mean, obviously that's all stemmed in massive misogyny and homophobia, but it's the default very often. And so a lot of either gay for pay sex workers or um bisexual non-professionals, I I was gonna say laymen, but that seems like a pun that I don't want to engage in. Uh they're sort of waiting for you to, like, oh well, then he must be really gay, or no, he like, no, I really think you can compartmentalize. I think, yeah, I think a vegetarian can eat a beef quesadilla and still be a vegetarian if they don't like it. Like I feel,
Like, I mean,
or
I know plenty of vegetarians who have gone back and forth. I mean, my sister is a vegan who has been, vegetarian at points in her life, has been pescatarian at points in her life, and
yeah,
then has been like, and now is just vegan. And then
veganism
I've
is
met,
fluid.
yeah, and then I met people who, started off as, omnivores who are now fully vegan. I've met people who started off as, vegetarians who are now omnivores. Like, I mean, people change, people flow in
Yeah.
between. And I think as someone who is bi and as someone who came out after, I came out after I was married, and as a poly individual as well, like my life was never seen as, oh my God, I get married and here it is. That was what I was taught. But I learned even pre-marriage, I was like, yeah, marriage is not the end. Marriage is just
Mhm.
the beginning. Because if you think marriage is going to solve all your problems, if you think a partnership is going to solve all your problems, it ain't. There's still going to be more problems.
Well, because it is, I mean, it's a lot of it is based in that history that we kept talking about, that we were going to repeat ourselves. And a lot of it had to do with property, and a lot
Mhm.
of it had to do with
Inheritance, basically.
inheritance. And what is that called? Where you don't mix the bloodlines, you sort of try to keep it.
Oh gosh,
Yeah,
yeah, there
that
was,
that thing,
and
that
then
thing.
eugenics is a whole nother thing, and
Yeah,
everything else. Yeah, so then
yeah.
there's the
You
eugenics of it
know,
all.
the
There's
royal family.
oh God, the royal family. But yeah, it's all of that, and it's sort of there's this there's this issue when it comes to, especially that whole rhetoric of like, well, a woman will always pick a man and a man will always pick a man. For the most part, I think that with bi erasure, the major problem we're seeing right now is this sort of wanting to take up every lane. Like right now, what I see a lot from bi women and from bi people in general, that to me is a little bit cringy, is the sort of wanting to overtake these wanting to sort of claim the main space. And as like, it's by visibility month, so I'm all for it, but I think there's a certain way we can claim space without taking over the space of others, especially when it comes to like shout out to like my lesbian community. Like, I'm always at sapphic events, but you will never see me with my male partner at a sapphic event ever, unless he is explicitly invited.
Mhm.
And even then, they know, sit in the corner and please sit down.
This isn't for you.
Like they're like, this isn't for you. You were invited. You are a guest. You need to sit down in your corner and stay in your place.
Mm.
And they are fully respectful of that. So I think there's a little bit of that going on right now, which is the bigger issue. But for the most part, yeah, the bi erasure of it all, especially when it comes to the character of Brad, um, there was a lot of that where I wish they would have given him more to kind of play with a little bit and more to explore. And he has a song that was deleted out of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. He has a bit more in the show.
Yeah, a lot more in the
Yeah,
show.
yeah. And well, that I find also, that also could have its own thesis and college paper, because why the filmmakers, and I include the studio in that, decide that once in a while killed the momentum of the show. Really, the characters' sexual awakening and grappling got in the way of the momentum of the move. Interesting. I think that there's something to be said about the potential discomfort in making that sexual experience somber, and that it should all be fun. It should only be fun. Him having sex with Frank, that should only be like,
A one-time
yes.
thing.
Well, not even just a one-time thing, but like kind of a joke.
And it
I
shouldn't be.
mean, it's sort of played for laughs, and that's, I mean, it's still a progressive laugh, so I'll
Yeah,
forgive it.
listen, we love our callbacks.
Um,
Some of them are a bit
yeah,
cringy. Like, I mean, we have the, coming, so is Frank.
yeah,
Like,
right.
so there's that. It is
Oh,
played off
see, we
like a
always
joke.
did on the East Coast. We always did. So is Brad. Interesting.
We,
Interesting.
we or no, I'm sorry. So is Brad. I said Frank. Sorry, we're talking about Frank. This is
Okay.
where
I thought
the neurospicy wires are crossing.
I thought that. See, I was ready to go into a whole new tangent about interesting. See, in this area, we put the emphasis on, yeah.
It's Brad.
Um,
It's Brad. I'm just neurodivergent and forget my words.
but I mean, and so, but I mean, and then in in the original US cut, they also cut superheroes, where also Brad is grappling. So, and the film in every incarnation, they didn't even do his verse in There's a Light. So Brad really gets short shrifted when it comes to his um reckoning.
Yeah, this is why I love going on tour with Barry and being able to talk about it with him specifically.
Let's talk about Barry Bostwick. While we're on the topic of
Uncle
Rocky Horror,
Barry.
since you have a close personal friendship, the first time I actually believe we met was here in Riverside,
Yep.
coincidentally enough,
Yes, it was.
when you were on tour with the Rocky Horror Picture Show with special guest Barry Bostwick. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
That's Uncle Barry. He's my favorite. He's so sweet. He's honestly, and props to him for still going and doing this at his age. But he is an absolute gem. He reminds me so much of both my uncle and my grandfather. And what's funny is I try not to bombard him a lot because everybody gets very like excited when they see him.
Yeah.
Especially our cast, but we try to give him some space and we try to respect him. But I remember one time we were up in Eureka, California, if you know where that is. It's up north, basically just shy of I believe a little further than Sacramento or before Sacramento. But we were up there doing a show and we had all flown out there. Barry had also flown out there and we had arrived at a similar time. So we're all taking this little charter bus. And everyone is sitting there trying to debate who's going to sit next to Barry, who's going to sit next to Barry. I take a seat in the bus and I'm, alone. And there are a couple of empty seats all around. Everybody left their seat open for Barry, but he walks in and comes and sits right next to me and is like, "Hi, how are you doing, sweetheart?" And I was like, "Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I don't think you remember me. I don't have my wig on." He's like, "No, no, no. I remember you. I absolutely remember you. You're Trixie. Nice seeing you again." And we just had this really beautiful conversation about his kids and about, just sort of what we were looking forward to with the show and the tour and obviously about his flight. I asked him, "You tired, Barry? Like, do you want to, I'm sure you've had a long flight." And, "Yeah, it was terrible, blah, blah, blah." And it's just nice to be able to go up to Barry and actually ask him about himself rather than just everybody being like, "Oh my God, you're Brad."
Does he live in LA? Do you know?
I actually do not know.
Mm,
I've never asked him about his personal life for
mm.
like other than like his kids and like
Sure.
standard stuff. I feel like he has a right to privacy. I feel like
Sure,
right
sure,
now
sure.
in his age, that's the
I
only
was
reason.
just curious if his flight was around the same as yours, for
Oh, I'm curious.
example.
Oh, no, no, no. I remember at that point, I think they were coming from the East Coast.
Oh, because right, he was still on the tour, right?
Yeah,
Because I
he
know
was.
he is a Californian by birth.
Yes, California by birth. I'm pretty sure he still lives here. I don't know where specifically, but
Right.
probably somewhere in the LA County area, if not the OC. But for the most part, um, he's always around here in LA. And then I know he's still acting from time to time. He does a couple
Mhm.
of guest spots every once in a while on shows and on different movies. But you know, um, it's just nice to see how this little role that he probably took as a way to pay his bills, like just
Mhm.
like probably just like because this was an indie film. This was with hardly a budget. And
Yeah.
Susan Sarandon, also was a very small name when she started when she took on the role. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of nice to see the impact and seeing someone like that who probably took on this role thinking, it's just gonna pay my bills for the month. I'll be fine. And seeing this 50 years later.
And they were also of the main cast, the only ones who hadn't done the stage show.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they felt so out of place because everybody else had this like camaraderie and
Which is
now
kind of perfect.
yes, and then now
It's kind of perfect for the dynamic of the film, frankly.
and it made perfect sense, but now then you see the camaraderie that like him and Patricia and Nell have, and they're all on the 50th anniversary tour together now. So it's just, I think for me as a performer, it was nice to see someone at his age whose work was still so prevalent and so loved and so honored. And wow, I don't know why this is making me cry right now, almost, but
Well,
like this struck something, and it's one of those like I only pray that I get just an ounce of the career
mm,
that he has with that, because even if he did nothing, even if he would have done nothing else for the rest of his life, the impact that Brad and that Rocky Horror has on the not just the queer community, but on culture at large. You don't go anywhere without hearing the time warp on
yeah.
Halloween. you know um you see these lips, and people know
Mm,
that's a Rocky symbol. So it's the impact of that, and I only hope that I can be a part of something that has that much impact 50
mm,
years from now, whether
mm.
that's a tiny blip of a name in some random index somewhere, or if it's something of what he does. I just want something that is powerful and lasting in my career.
It was very cool because I had met him years earlier, but when the husband and I went to the theater to see, so for folks at home, this was a live viewing of the Rocky Horror Picture Show as introduced by Barry Bostwick. So he spoke beforehand. He actually even sang a little bit of Once in a While. He bantered with Larry Vizel, who is the fan club president and my former cast director, actually.
Mhm.
Um,
And our
also
tour
a fan.
director.
And I had met him when he did a charity event in Nyack, New York, and it was his first real return to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And it was purposeful. It was for a charity. It was also when he was right around when he was starting to do promo for the FDR uh film that he did. Which is sort of, I think was what was it, FDR Werewolf Hunter or something like that.
Something like
Something like that. And he so it was purposeful, but he also there was respect involved, and so I reminded him of that because we had a moment during the show where he was in the audience, and he and me and the person who played Frank, I was Brad for Barry Bostwick. We did the bedroom scene on top of him, and his wife called during just to see how the show was going. And he was like, "Sorry, honey, I'm being blown right now."
that.
Yeah, it was pretty terrific. So I
Hilarious.
mentioned that, and he of course remembered that because how often does that happen? And my husband, who is in academia and a college professor, he talked about how he talks about Rocky Horror in um, academic terms for queer media, and he was very touched by that. Like he seemed genuinely proud that the film has a legacy, it can be intellectualized like that. And I know he was a little resistant to it because he was doing other things. I mean, that's the thing also is that we as fans get very, very emotionally tied. And to the point where even like, I mean, I'm a gigantic Golden Girls fan. I never need to hear again that B. Arthur and Betty White never got along. I like it's a
Like we
foregone
know this.
conclusion. We
Yeah.
know this. But they were two different types of actresses who did still manage to work together for 7 years. And how many coworkers from 30 years ago do you still hang out with? Like, let's be real.
That's true.
But the fact that he has been able to reconnect with it and also control the narrative by doing his own introductions and connecting with the audience, I think is fabulous because he doesn't have to do that.
No, he really doesn't. And I think that the audience really appreciates it. I think the fans truly appreciate seeing him year after year and coming in and, being that face that is consistent.
Mm,
Because, like, Patricia, gets to come out when, on certain legs of the tour. But again, travel and, with health and everything, I can understand why that's so hard for
well,
her.
she lives in Europe too. Like
Yeah.
she
So
actually
doing
lives in.
so doing a US tour is a lot of work for her.
Yeah.
That's a lot of travel. That's, 12-hour to 14-hour flights. You're talking visas with everything going on right now. I can only imagine the strings they've had to pull. But,
Yeah.
Barry being that consistent face is something that we as the US audience, I think have really grown to, I don't want to say expect, but we find like I don't even know the right word to use, but sort of like it's like coming home.
Mm,
And it's nice to see that same face year after year because I know
mm,
even when I started, I was like, "Oh, like do other cast members tour?" And they were like, "Well, yeah, but mostly it's Barry." And
yeah.
so that's where the like nickname kind of came, at least from our cast. We call him Uncle Barry, like because it's just sort of that like, it's that constant reminder, it's that consistent face, and it's like coming home.
Well, I mean, if you really consider about it, because as part of the New York con, we had Sadie Core and a few of the other um, Transylvanians that were
Mhm.
able to be there, including, oh God, I think Lindsay was there.
Mhm.
Um, Perry Bedden was always game. And Perry Bedden actually came to the Home of Happiness actually for a show at one
Oh, okay.
point. And the audience just didn't know how to like even know how to connect. Like we were like, what do we say? And I think somebody at one point said like, so whose idea was it to paint the nails of the David statues? Harry Bedden doesn't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I would have I immediately know what to ask every Transylvanian because every Transylvanian, their costumes are so unique
Oh,
from
sure.
I would have asked about individual costume choices.
Sure.
Why did you pick this hat versus that hat? Why did
Yeah.
you decide to put your glasses on, but someone else decided to keep theirs off? Why did I would have I have so many questions. How hard
They were
was it to
so
learn?
high.
Yeah, and yeah, and how hard was it to learn that choreography high? Because I still have trouble with that damn time warp choreography, and I'm sober.
Well, to be fair, it's multiple cuts. It's two cuts. So
If you look at it, they're never facing the
I
same
know.
way
You're never
in
faced
between
away.
cuts. So I'm just like, which way? And especially
Yeah.
me, like I helped choreograph a little bit for my shadow cast, and just going like, wait, which way are they supposed to be facing? Wait, but then it switches. But then
Yeah. Yeah.
I think learning Rocky was a whole nother that learning that role was I never want to have to learn something like Rocky again because of how often he would, depending on the camera angle or whatever the
Yeah.
camera frame would switch, he'd be doing something different. And I'm like, really, I was just doing
It's
something else.
it's well even Colombia, like her hat is off in some moments too. Like there are
And
things
then
like
it's back
that,
on.
but then it's back on. And they I talked to oh God, this is years ago at this point, but Kimmy Wong was also at the New York. We actually took her back to the airport and hung out with her for a bit. There's a
I would
photo of
have
her.
I would have died if I would have seen Kimmy Wong there.
Oh yeah, no, she was lovely. She was a little overwhelmed by New York.
Fair
And
enough.
she lived a very private life at that time. I believe she worked at like the Hard Rock Cafe in London, and she was no longer like a working actress. So to have like this different world, America, no less, post 9/11 America in New York City, was sort of jarring. And so she was like, I really need someone to take me to the airport. I really like I'm not going to be able to do that on my own. So me and my roommate took her there. There's a photo that somewhere lives on some hard drive somewhere of us together. And she's like, now let's pose where I'm your mother scolding you. And you just have to go with that. Like, okay, sure,
I love that.
I
I
don't
love
know
that you have.
why.
I love that. When you find that image, you need to
I'll
post
have
that
to look.
somewhere. Especially this year, considering it's the 50th anniversary. You have to post
I
this.
know. That's true. Have you met as we wrap up our Rocky Horror references. And audience at home, thank you for allowing us this moment. You knew what
Yes.
you came for. You know
Thank you
what
for
you
nerding
came
with
for.
us.
Have you met Lil No?
No, not yet. I'm
Okay.
and we were slated to meet her this year. Unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna happen. I think another cast has that show, which is fine. Please, the more the merrier. Please, let's share the wealth when it comes to this tour. But there was a moment where there was talks about us doing like the Vegas show in on Halloween night last year that ever ended up happening. And then the same thing, there was talks about us doing a show with her this year. Didn't end up lining up, just, with the cast in the areas that they're in. It ended up working out better with another cast. But I have gotten to touch her corset, which
Hmm.
I had a woo moment when I saw Larry bring that corset out, and I said, "Is that the
Because is that
corset?
yeah,
The corset?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is one of the two."
yeah.
And I like immediately went into like the oh my god, and he just looked at me, he's like, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Like just let me have a moment." And even my cast director's like she's fine. I promise. She's fine. Just give her a minute. She'll be professional again in two
It's a holy
seconds.
grail moment. It's like this Turin. Like, yeah.
Right. And I had
Yeah.
just and I had spent so much work on my costume, even though that fabric is near damn impossible to find anymore. But
Yeah.
I did it all rhinestoned, and I just was sort of like I just had a moment where I was like, oh my god, this is full circle right now. I can remember seeing that corset for the first time on the screen, and now I'm literally seeing it right in front of me.
Hey, this is Viktor Devonne, and I like socks. I've always liked socks. In fact, I like socks so much that I don't match them because life is too short. Not because life is too short to find the other one that matches it, but because I want people to see how many socks I have. And I don't always take off my shoes, but when I take off my shoes, I want you to see at least two examples of the quality that I am drawn to. And that is why I shop at Foot Clothes. You can get 10% off your first order at footclothes.com and enjoy the luxury, style, and utter ridiculousness that is Foot Clothes. I encourage you to do so, and I want you to do it right now. And I want you to feel comfortable not having those socks match. Get into it. Feel right about it. Take pictures. Make some money off of it. I don't need to see it. You can send those the way that you need to. But you have fun out there. That's footclothes.com. Promo code Viktor Devonne, lowercase, all together.
So
Yeah. It was interesting to have that experience, because I think it did shape some of my convention, because it was that bridge between community theater for me and what would eventually be being in burlesque shows. And it was still very scrappy and very homegrown.
mhm.
We were we I would say we were pretty professional, all things considered. We did have our cast issues that, until LiveJournal came around, were between us.
Now,
Uh,
what cast does not have issues?
well, we were a lot of, I mean, also you consider we were a bunch of different crayon boxes of a neurodivergence flavor.
Yeah,
And we're also young. I was 18 when I joined. We had 30-year-olds and
yeah.
18-year-olds and 30-year-olds in the same, back and forth. We had different lived experiences.
Oh yeah.
A lot of us were fucking each other. It was also a very heteronormative cast. I was one of the very few gay characters with very few gay, or queer male performers in that cast when I first started.
Yeah.
And it only got gayer Which is interesting because when I talk about that, like you have to really consider then there's a bunch of therefore straight people making a bunch of gay jokes. And
Yeah.
you have to deconstruct that. You have to be like, okay, so what are we doing here? Who is this for? And I wouldn't say I necessarily had the wherewithal at that point, but one looks back and goes, oh,
Like maybe
well,
I should have done something there, but
I should have said something. Maybe I should have said something. But yeah, it was an incredibly important year. I did 7 years of that. And I can't ever consider trading it for anything because I would not be here. And I don't mean that beyond literally to a
no.
certain degree, uh, because I met the people that I met and I did the things that I did and I learned about me the way that I did.
Yeah.
So,
I know
oh,
I know for me it helped me get back to performing because I almost up and done quit performing. And I mean I get it. I mean, who was it that who makes well, Matt Finish makes all the best memes for us show ponies on the planet, but he always loves to make fun of like the performers that are like retiring. And I'll
uh,
admit I was that person going like I'm done. I don't want to perform anymore. And then coming back and doing Rocky was what made me get the itch again. It was I didn't want to be consistently on I didn't want to be the rat on a wheel. I wanted to make sure that I was performing because I still loved it and not just because it was a paycheck. And I think there's that I think there's this like kind of wall that every performer hits after a while that you've been performing for money for a long time. You're like, do I still love this or is this just my job now? And so I know Rocky
or
helped
is
me.
just routine, or is it just routine even?
Yeah, or is it
Because
just routine?
then, yeah,
Because that's what Rocky did for me coming back. Doing Rocky during my break and then continuing it even as I've come back to burlesque. It's the constant reminder of why do I perform? If it's not for money, what is it for then? And it's because it's love, it's community, you know, it's the ups and downs of it all. Even the stress that comes from Rocky, I have started appreciating it more because what happens when it's gone?
yeah. But you get money for this?
No, not oh, well, not
Uh,
for Rocky, but I mean, for burlesque, we milk as much as we can out of the
we
audience.
do what we can. We do what we can. As someone who then returned to burlesque, what would you say besides any mental changes that you had accrued, excuse me, over the time of your break? How do you approach performing as a soloist? We can talk about the group stuff too, because you're also part of the Burlesque and Chill. Is there a troupe title? Is there a troupe name for y'all?
Not as I mean, it's just the burlesque and chill dancers. Like, so we're
Dancers.
just a troupe. I mean, I know the band just got their name, so I
They
mean, who
did.
knows? Maybe we'll get a
As
name
of
soon.
as of the time of Jade, they didn't have a name when I interviewed Jade a couple of months ago. So it was funny that suddenly
They have a name now, yeah, and it's super cute. But yeah, no, I mean, if lady, if you're listening, we need a name.
I just think about it. I mean, even if you were the Burlesque and Chillers or the
The burlesque and
the
chillers.
the Burlesque and Chill Dancers.
We gotta
Yeah.
find a good name for this. It's now on my list of topics, but for sure, definitely as a soloist, I had to learn to I think one of the major things that was stopping me from coming back was what happens when I'm coming back and there are so many I saw so many performers that began after me essentially who were now like headlining big shows and who were doing major festivals. And I was like, well, how is this going to look? I'm coming back in essentially at, at the time I left at, my 4 year mark and then came back around the 5.5, 6 year mark. And I was like, you know what is this going to look when I'm doing all these smaller shows when people who were, essentially either right beside me, at the time when I started are now like surpassing me. How's this going to make me feel? And I had to learn to one, run my own race. And I think looking at other performers in the industry as well who were right beside me, but also had, bigger names. I started looking at what they were doing or people who had been in the community for so many years. And I started looking at numbers and I went number crazy and I went analytic crazy. And I kind of started realizing, you know what? Doesn't fucking matter how long you've been in this. There are a lot of girls who have been doing this, or even performers in general, not just girls, but all of our show ponies, there are some who have been in the industry 10 years and have, 500 followers. And then you have some who have been in the industry for 2 years and they're racking up 3,000 to 4,000, 5,000 followers or more, or some of them even crazier at like 15. And I just learned to one, run your own race, and two, to just start to get comfortable with things not going your way. And
Mm,
that's okay. Live performance is that. And I had to start reminding myself people are coming to pay for the live performance. They know what they signed up for. It's not going to be perfect. And that's all right. And it's learning how to go with the flow more, I think, is the newest approach that I've taken, because I used to be so like, I would get so hard on myself if something didn't go right, or
mm.
if a prop failed, or I didn't reveal on time, or whatever the case may be, 101 things. And I think I just learned to kind of pay less attention to the noise and just be more present. As
Mm.
cheesy as that sounds. I used to black out on stage a lot and never remember my performances, and I have now been able to not black out on stage, which has been, I think, my biggest accomplishment, is not being able to black out.
Being present, being
Yeah,
like taking it in. Yeah.
and
Do you?
slowing down. Yeah, because I think
Yeah.
it was, I took it. I used to take it as a compliment when people called me a firecracker. Now I take it as, even though people are still giving it to me as a compliment, I take it as a, oh, I gotta slow down. I'm not paying attention. I'm going too fast. That means I'm not
Hmm.
I'm not savoring it.
Hmm.
And so I've learned to savor being on stage a little bit more, rather than just high energy and excitement.
Hmm. Well, I mean, do you think that one of the reasons that you would black out or not necessarily allow yourself to absorb the moment was fear-based? Or were you
I
so distracted by the activity?
I think it was both. I think it was
Uh,
it was a sense of perfectionism for sure. For me, growing up, there was this sense of being perfect, and if something wasn't done right, then why do it at all? And
hmm.
learning to let go of that, while I understand it, and you can hold space for that, I've learned that it's not the end all be all, and that
Hmm.
sometimes it's better to just do something even if it's not right. It's better to do and learn in the process, rather than you know having to think that you just need to be 100% fully realized and fully complete, and that there's space to grow.
Hmm. Yeah. And there is something also to be said about being present when you are not a soloist on stage, because you have to be there for your partners that you're working with as well. So that does require focus as
Yeah,
well as communication. Yeah.
I will say though, I've never blacked out when I'm with other people on stage. I've only
Hmm.
blacked out solo performing.
Was that true even as Trixie?
um yeah, my first
Hmm.
couple Trixies I went out, I blacked out. I don't know what I did. And I don't think I fully started being present in Trixie even. I don't think I really started fully being present in Trixie up until maybe, I want to say maybe the second tour I did. Then I started being a little more present in my Trixie and less. I blacked out a lot less.
Hmm.
And then this
I mean,
year I
for
realized I haven't blacked out at all, and I'm kind of grateful, and I'm just like, please let this keep going.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and I have to admit, there were times where, I mean, there's a little Judy Garland in all of us, where, our behaviors to cope on stage can get in the way as well, whether that's alcohol or substances or some other coping device that prevents us from fully engaging. And we can miss out on like a lot of really great moments that we could later reflect on. And there are a few where I overshot the alcohol in my 20s. And I was like, I wish I could remember that show. Don't remember that show. And it kind of sucks because I worked really hard on putting that show together. And I'm sure I was great. And I'm sure it was a lot of fun. And in some cases, there's even video, but I don't want to look at the video because I'm afraid of looking at the video. But I'm like, yeah, and that was true also. I mean, that was true in Rocky. We had our share of uh substance users.
Oh yeah.
Some kept it very private, and some were very like, why can't we all just get drunk before the show? I don't understand. What's your problem?
I think what
Uh,
what's funny is with my cast, that's exactly why it became a dry cast, is because of there were too many incidences of too many people getting way too drunk before a show, and it was like, all right, dry cast until after the show.
and then that's hard too, because also a lot of us are on different medications, and a lot of us are on, different adrenaline rushes, and how you respond to substances in different circumstances is a very different thing. And that can include like your gummies. Like that doesn't even I'm not even referring to like Coke here, people. Um, I'm referring to things that are actually good for you or will help you chill or will maintain you. But if you're too chill and you don't have the reflexes,
That's a
you're gonna
whole
hurt someone. You're gonna hurt
yeah.
someone.
You
Yeah.
won't be ready for that person, and I think that definitely happens obviously more with groups or partner dances, especially when I started doing like my partner Trixie. I definitely and I was making my partner do some crazy stuff, but I definitely wanted us to be fully present, and obviously like by that point the cast had become dry, so there wasn't any concern about that, but I would have definitely not wanted to do partner Trixie if it was not a dry cast. That would have been very scary.
Yeah. I mean, no judgments for anybody. As long as you didn't hurt anybody, you got home
Yeah,
safe and nobody was mad at you. You lucked out. But there are a lot of people who didn't get home, did piss somebody else off, or did hurt themselves. So
yeah, and that's always the scary part. That's always
yeah.
the scary part. But I know I have my one glass of champagne usually before a show, and that's like I'm solid.
Just a little prep, maybe a
Oh,
little backup at intermission, There's a little
yeah,
Lane Stritch in us all too. Uh,
that's my go-to drink. I learned that from Dita. I
the
definitely stole that
bubbles.
from her. Yeah, oh yeah, she said bubbles, and I was like, all right, bubbles then, but not beer, because then that's like I feel like heavy, I feel gassy, but like
Because
champagne.
yeah, that's
Yeah, and it's
basically
heavy.
bread.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically bread. But
Yeah.
the champagne every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching I'm late to the game, folks, so don't get mad at me, but I was late to watching Hacks, the TV show, which I know is was a big gay favorite for many years, but it's the HBO show with Jean Smart. And there's this one scene where her assistant says, "Oh, you're not drinking a martini. That's usually your drink of choice." And they're in like this dive bar. She says, "I don't trust these people to make a good martini. You never get a house red because it's not going to be good, but you can get a good house white because even if it's bad, it's good and cold." I'm like,
Hmm.
"That's right."
Exactly. This is why I never ask for a French like at certain bars. Like I'll just ask for a split. And then even then some people look at me like, "What?" And I'm like, "A split." And they're like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, "The little mini champagne bottles." Like that's all it is. Just a
That's all
split.
it is. It's all fun.
Little split.
Um, are you about to go on another Rocky Horror jaunt?
They
Tis the
are.
season?
Yeah, 'tis the season. We're just trying to figure out what shows I'm going to do, considering that now, burlesque has definitely shot up a lot more, especially since really going more full time back into burlesque. So
Hmm.
I am still doing. Hopefully, I am doing the one in. I'm hopefully doing Pachanga. That'll be with Barry, and then I am debating right now. We're deciding if I'm doing the Halloween show or not, which would be the home show. But as of right now, those are the two that I'm doing, and then for the most part, mainly right now it's prepping for like burlesque and chill. They have their two screamtacular shows, so that's what we've been prepping, and then I'm actually getting to solo for the first time during their virtual one, so that'll be in October.
Nice. Very,
um,
very cool.
so that'll be fun, but yeah, so mostly, so yeah, there will be some Rocky, of course, 'tis the season, but for the most part I don't get to do full legs like I have done in the past years.
Sure. Yeah, full legs and lips.
Full legs and lips, yep, exactly,
So as we wrap, I want to talk a little bit more about your solo burlesque interests. When you are performing as a showgirl, as a burlesque performer, what usually comes first for you? Is it the song, the look? Do you craft your own materials? What's that like for you when you're constructing an act?
I do craft my own materials for the most part. I don't sew very well, so I'll be honest that most of the time I will get the base costume purchased or made for me, and then I rhinestone and make adjustments and sew snaps and do what I have to do. Um, but I think it depends. So for example, um, I really wanted to do like one of the major routines that I have that is one of my favorites is my La Llorona routine, which is it's a mix because it's technically done in the style of La Bruja, which is it's the white Veracruz dress, and I'm balancing a candle. Um, but I obviously knew that I didn't want to do La Bruja because a lot of people wouldn't understand it, especially the American audience or people who aren't Latino. They wouldn't really get it. So I had to then sort of flip it, and I said, okay, well, white dress, you know, there's a candle. The candle is supposed to be a symbol of guiding the dead to the afterlife. So La Llorona makes the most sense. So it started more as a concept, but then you have like my namesake routine, which it was both my name and the song. I grew up loving La Vida Loca by Ricky Martin,
Hmm.
and I used to dance it all around my house when I was little. So obviously the name and the song kind of correlated, and the song came first that way, and then the costume came after. It's always a different story, so it definitely depends on what I'm doing. But um I've started learning in recent years, especially since leaving my first burlesque troupe and going more solo. I learned how to actually structure your routines and how to structure your costumes, and I've learned mainly from both Bella Sin. I'll give her all the credit in the world, and of course, even our reigning queen, Jezebel Thunder, who said, create a costume that can work for anything. Have costume pieces that can mix and match instead of playing to a theme all the time. Play to an idea or to a concept that's a little bit more free, and then that way you can mix and match. Like I have a red costume that I use as a saint, as a devil, and
Mm.
as an sort of like a priest. And I've done it all three, but it is the exact same costume. The only thing that changes is the headpiece.
That's just working smarter. Like,
Listen, I am a low middle class like
no, no, no. Like,
I am a low middle class performer, and I don't got too much money, so I make do with what I got.
one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard Pearl Noir say was get an outfit and come up with at least three different styles of music that you can perform to that outfit with, because then you'll get a classic, you'll get a modern, and then you'll get the art piece. Like,
I love that. And Pearl's so smart. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I watched Pearl like a hawk. I mean, I love her.
yeah. Did you
Absolutely.
have I can chop this if this is a portion of an area that you don't want to talk about, but did you have a mentor specifically, or was that related to the
I basically like the burlesque troupe that I was on for sure was definitely like my sort of my schooling. But what I will say is they didn't teach me how to dance. It
Mm,
was, yes, obviously burlesque is a style that you have to learn. And, it's not like when you're just choreographing a random dance routine. The burlesque has its own style and its own
you have
rules that you do have to
points to
learn.
hit. Yeah.
Yeah, points to hit, of course. However, I will say that it taught me both the good things about burlesque, and it also taught me about the things to watch out for. It taught me all the ins and outs that I needed to know to be prepared in going off on my own, both good and bad. So it was my high school, basically is what I would compare it to. It was my high school.
Mm, yeah, I can see that. I mean, I have a similar feeling about Home of Happiness in that regard. Is that
Yeah.
I mean, ironically, I was in high school when I joined Home of Happiness, but which is also really interesting too, because you came into Rocky Heart as a fully formed adult, and I
Yes.
find that to be uh, a unique storyline actually for folks that I talk to who also do burlesque. A lot of folks, Rocky Horror, either shadowcast or attending the live events, that was a route. That was a teenage or young adult or early 20s storyline. So I find that shows perhaps that you were more prepared emotionally to go through
For
the
sure.
rigors.
For sure, but I think part of it is also like I think it's important to heal past parts of yourself as well. It's not necessarily that you have to go back in and really, harp on the past, but I think for
Mm,
me it was something that I hadn't done that had always been something that I wanted to do, but of course, you get taught, well, they don't make money, so you need to find a job, and I was graduating school, so obviously, work came first. So right after college, I was auditioning heavily. I was doing background work. I was doing that whole LA dancer thing. So, and then right away I went into teaching. So for the most part, I never really got to have that. I never got to have
yeah.
that opening experience. And then doing, jumping into burlesque, and then having the pandemic hit me really hard. I needed something where, again, I wasn't creating for somebody else and I was actually having fun, and that
Yeah.
it was something that I could essentially kind of rinse and repeat. It was the same show being done, but I still had freedom to go ahead and learn other parts.
Hmm.
I had freedom to try things, of course, because it's not so serious. It's not super serious theater where you have to follow everything to the T. You can have fun. You can throw in gags. You can change
See
something
what
on
works.
stage
Yeah.
and see what works. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can, so long as you have consent, you can try things. Like me
Yeah.
and my magenta would always do stupid shit during our, during Toucha, and that would be like our favorite thing is to add something different during Toucha every time. So,
Well, also as a traveling Rocky Horror person, also certain theaters would require you to do certain things too,
yeah, exactly. So
depending on where you were.
it
Yeah.
so it gave me a lot of that freedom back again, and it reminded me how much, again, like that I loved performing without there needing to be a paycheck. It gave me that reminder while still reminding me how important it is to have a paycheck and perform, because how would I put food on the table otherwise?
You're also an artist.
But yeah, but you're
That's the
also an
thing.
artist, and
Yeah.
I had to heal the artist, because the artist was the one that was suffering, not the professional. The professional was fine. It was the artist that was suffering, and I needed to go do something to heal the artist. So as an adult coming back to Rocky, it made more sense for me. But that's, again, what reminded me that everybody has their own race, everybody has their own story, and everybody has a different starting point.
Perfect. I mean, I can't follow that up. I think you summed it up perfectly. I really appreciate the time that you've spent and me getting to know you and geek out about Rocky Horror. I as often as it comes up on the pod, it's been a minute since I really like talked about the nuance. And again,
Yeah,
we barely scratched the surface. So I would love
true.
to geek out with you again, even further, much
Anytime.
more.
Anytime.
Uh, Fantastic. I hope at some point or another to break another stage wing with you. I know we had one show at Burlesque and Chill, but I'd love to see you again and share some stage time with you.
Absolutely.
Um, Hopefully that will come to pass sooner than later. In the meantime, can you tell the folks at home the ways that they can keep in touch with what you have going on?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at La Frida Lokah. La Frida Lokah is spelled LAFRIDA LOKAH. A lot of people don't realize that there is a triple pun to my name. So if you can figure out the triple pun, please tell me, because I love hearing and discovering when people actually see it. As far as shows go, you can find me quarterly at Burlesque and Chill. And I am also with Locals and Locas in Laguna Beach, and that is, I try to be there at least 2 to 3 times a month, but I'll be there twice this upcoming month, and you'll also see me virtually for Screamtacular as well. That's what I have coming up so far.
Fabulous. Well, I look forward to finding you here and there. And
Absolutely.
happy Halloween early as it is. It's
Happy
now
early
officially that.
Halloween, and happy early Dia de los Muertos as well.
Indeed. And thank you so much for being a part of this. I look forward to watching you thrive.
Same. I look forward to seeing you again.
All right, darling. Folks at home, thank you for listening. Do the follows, the likes, all the things that make me happy. And you can also throw some dollar bills at patreon.com/We Burlesque. If you would like to follow Frida, which I encourage you to do, please go to the footnotes and the links will also be there as well. My darling. Mwah. We Were Less the podcast, created, developed, and edited by Viktor Devonne. Podcast artwork by Logan Laveau. We Were Less the podcast cover art photography by Atticus Stevenson. Theme song, On a 45 by This Way to the Egress, used with permission. All incidental music via Pixabay under the expectation of fair use. Please visit WeWereLessPodcast.com for notes on this and every other episode. Follow We Were Less and Viktor Devonne on just about every platform, and support the podcast via patreon.com/WeWereLess. Don't got the cash? Please follow, subscribe, and give 5 stars on every platform you can get your hands on. It really does help. All original material is owned by Viktor Devonne and White Elephant Burlesque Corporation. All other materials property of their respective copyright. No infringement, while likely, is intended. This episode, and all episodes thereafter, are in memory of Lucky Charming. Miss you, friend. And that's it.
Woohoo!
Tonight on Murder, She Wrote.
Hooray!
Hey.
Yeah.
It's kind of Piper Laurie and Brenda Vaccaro, the love child.
Thank goodness.
I want to know her.
Nails. Yeah, where's her series? That's what
She's
I want.
fabulous.
The son is Joaquin Phoenix.
I know, isn't that nuts? And he is an ugly little kid. I'm sorry.
We're just like, hey, remember when this guy was in this obscure Broadway show in 1976?
Right? Look at him in those tight pants. Yum.
Well, because there's not
But
a
we
lot
do
really
get-
going on. It's
Yeah.
supposed I mean, unless you're listening to the dialogue, which frankly, audience at home, you can do without us. We're just
Yeah,
learning
do your own
about
work,
some of these
damn it.
backstory. But
Right.
Boswell put her up to it.
Yeah.
And then Trish had to be killed because she realized that Boswell didn't have her interests at heart because Teddy was the inheritor.
Yeah.
Playing her like a fiddle.
Oswald knew it, and Trish just gulped it down like one of those martinis,
And then tossed it onto the law.
and then lost her head. Poor Trish.
Trish loses her head. This is Viktor Devonne,
And this is Petra Fried
and this is Tonight
on Murder, She Wrote.